TBI interviews. Levi, take one.
Alright, well, you kind of know how this works. So we're just going to start off with what happened. How did the injury occur?
Starting off, so football player in high school, was in my junior year of high school, came in, was just getting back from a back injury, came into a game, it was a JV game, was like all pumped up, you know, getting ready to play, getting to warm-ups, go through it all, do your normal drill, do your routine, and then hit it. First play of the game, kickoff, I get speared by this guy coming across the side, and he just knocks me, not out, but just out of it, and that was the first one. But this is all from what coaches were telling me, and then it just kept playing until half, and it looks, from what we can figure out on footage and film, it was about 5 concussion level hits throughout that time period. And then it got to the point where I'm coming off the field, hit this point where I go out for a pass, which I never do because I'm a fullback, don't got hands. Go out, quarterback throws the ball because I'm the only one open, hits me clean in the chest, falls off. I just walk off the field, super out of it. Go up to coach and I'm like, hey, I'm not doing the best. Walk off, throw up, come back in, and like by the time I get back, can't even stand up. They have to carry me off the field. Next thing I remember from warm-ups was waking up in the hospital with a nurse pumping me full of drugs. And it was just that, like, I didn't have any memory. And then that led into a season of just, it was 5 weeks in a dark room by myself. Had a doctor tell me I couldn't play contact sports again. Like, football was off the table, and it was just that, like, it was brutal. It was terrible pain, just done.
So now you said, like, immediately there was, like, you were throwing up, you just were kind of out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, that 5-week period, what were your, like, symptoms like?
Symptoms, severe headache, like pounding, always radiating from the back to the front. Just this, like, rhythmic, just terrible pain that comes in a flow, and then severe sensitivity to light and sound. So every time I'd get in a situation with light, I have to wear sunglasses or it would just like pierce my head. Same with sound, of just always had to wear something to protect my ears, and it would just pierce in if I didn't in a lot of situations. Very overstimulating, and also a lot of vertigo and nausea carrying out through. Like, I couldn't really balance that well, and always kind of, like, if I went too hard or too long, it would get the nausea rising up. So basically I spent most of my time sleeping.
And you said this was your junior year of high school?
Mm-hmm.
So can you kind of, like, walk us through a timeline, like, since junior year up till where you are now?
Yeah, so immediately after I had the 5 weeks and then started kind of getting back into society, finished one class that semester out of the 3 I started with, even though it was a 16 credit load because I was at a community college. It was really bad pain, but it was like I could get through it enough, but every time I'd come home it would just crash. So I'd sleep probably 14 hours a day, do 1 to 2 things a day, and then crash. And that would be school and eating, and then crash. Really bad pain throughout, but it was something where I was like, I just had to get through it. I saw a lot of doctors at that time. And then at about Christmas, like early December, was when we started to see a turning point where some symptoms were starting to let up more. But it wasn't until about January early of that year when I got into prism glasses that I was able to, like, start actually getting better. And I had about 3 months from there until March when I started a landscaping job that I was doing really good, solid, like almost back to normal, you could say. Still, I mean, every so often I'd have a headache that would just derail me. But then I hit March and I got a landscaping job. Did landscaping, kicked off something fierce, and so I went into a season of migraines for about, like a 3-day migraine every, like, twice a week. So then I'd have 1 day without a migraine a week. And that was about 4 months. And then from there, I cut out all dairy, all sugar, everything, or 4 months, 3 months from there. Then I cut out all dairy and sugar and went in trying to, like, just figure something out, recorrected my whole diet, started a lot of supplements, was back to seeing a lot of doctors, and finally leveled it out again until from about June or July to September, there was nothing. It was just, like, back to normal. I was good to go. September hit, I got a 10-day migraine, which just derailed me. You know, like, I was in the middle of school and I just couldn't do anything, barely keeping up with classes. And then from there, it was good. Everything, it was that 10 days, and then it was done. Didn't feel anything, nothing, until February of 2021. February, what was it? 21st? February 21st or 2020th, somewhere in there.
About a year and a
Yeah,
week ago.
about a year and a week ago, I got a migraine. And I was like, okay, this is just normal. It happens every so often. But it didn't let up. And so it was constant, and it's been constant for the last year and a week. It's just been a constant migraine ranging from about a 3 on the pain scale to about a 9 on bad days. And so it was really bad at that start. But once we started going, I got on some meds and some different things, and it really helped, but leveled it out. Still there, but that was where we got down to that 3. And so it leveled at 3 for a while, and now it just kind of peaks every so often. So it's about once a week I have a bad migraine.
You've explained it to me before, but like, how do you explain like the head pain? Because sometimes people hear migraine and think just bad headache. How would you explain that?
So the reason for me, it's starting off. You have that light sensitivity, that noise sensitivity that come back. Like I still can't do worship sessions past like 10, 20 minutes because it just overwhelms me and destroys my head. But the pain is, the best way I can describe it is it's like I have this net that is wrapped around my brain and it's being tightened. And like every so often in that net, there's this just white hot nail that goes into my head, and it's this piercing. And so it's like 30 of those all around the head and the brain in that net as it's tightening. So I have this huge pressure and squeezing, plus this like sharp burning pain throughout. And then it kind of like radiates in and out of that.
So you kind of mentioned a few things, like you cut out, dairy and gluten and stuff. What other things helped over the past 2 years?
For me, I think the biggest help overall was Prism glasses. That changed everything because that was where I started to actually see really good improvement. That's the first one. Therapy for my brain. I went through a lot of vertigo and rebalance training of my brain. And that paired with neck therapy was the big one. I think those two really helped a lot. And then chiropractic work and craniosacral. That, and then definitely cutting out anything inflammatory from your diet was huge because I cut out dairy, gluten, and sugar all. And that was a good season of just resetting everything, and then I could slowly integrate it back into my diet. But that helped really get over the slump.
So those are things that helped. A follow-up question: what didn't help?
I went to a pain specialist pretty close after the concussion. This is the worst one because she came in and wanted to do localized steroids to help the pain, but she put them in the nerve centers right in the ball of your shoulder between your collarbone and your shoulder blade, and that killed me. Like it was some of the worst pain, and it incited all the nausea and all that. So that was a big one. There's a lot of homeopathic stuff that I tried that really didn't work, and it was just like, it was a lot of like, get your hopes up and then does nothing.
Yeah.
And so that was where I ran into a lot of problems, but also running into, I was on a lot of different meds that they prescribed for migraines, and those, a lot of times, except for one that I'm on now, made everything worse because they have a lot more symptoms than what they help.
So you mentioned pain specialist. Did you receive any other sort of treatment, or like what doctors did you go and see throughout?
So I've seen, most of the doctors I saw were more homeopathic, like not normal, they were natural doctors, not normal classic doctors. Those were kind of the ones that really didn't work that well. But then you had like the chiropractor, you had a craniosacral specialist, which is like a specialized massage therapist. There was I went to this place called the Concussion Place, which had neurologists specializing in concussions. I saw them, I saw a few neurologists. I've seen almost anyone you can think of relating. I did, what's that called? There was a neurologist who did cryotherapy on the head. I did needling, so physical therapy. Yeah, most doctors you can think of.
And from what you said, did like pretty much none of them really help?
Not really.
Hey. That's just insane.
A lot of money down the drain there.
Yeah. And you've been in this for what, 2.5 years now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What advice would you give to someone who either recently got a traumatic brain injury, or is like just kind of entering into this world, figuring stuff out? And then what advice would you give to someone who's been in it for a while?
The advice for someone newly entered in, I would say, is really take what your doctor is saying seriously. Because especially if you just got like a minor concussion, but you go getting another one 2 weeks after, that just makes it so much worse and compoundingly. So really take seriously like those restrictions to activities and light, and really not be like cautious of all that. That's the first one. I would say also go to the right doctors. Start with a neurologist as your base and work out from there. But go to doctors where you're actually going to be spending your money wisely, because it is really expensive to do brain treatment. And I would say your best option is prism glasses. Those will really help. But just do your research well before going to a doctor. Because I didn't times, and it just got me in a lot of trouble.
So you said, like, most doctors didn't help you, but then you're saying, like, for people to go to it, is there like a certain doctor?
Well, so I just say, I would start with neurologist.
Oh.
Go to a strict neurologist, someone who focuses on the brain, and they can help get you to the right people if they can't help you directly. But I think that's just a really good starting point that people don't start with, because they'd rather go to like their home doctor or whatever it be. So that's for people who are just getting into it. But for people who are in it for the long term, I think the big one is now it's about how you're relating to people with it and how you're communicating what's going on. And it's more of like, tell people what's going on, tell them about your pain. I think a great thing to do is like tell them what level you're at, and let people be knowledgeable about where you are, and really let people help you, because there's a lot of situations where you're much more helpless than you know. So that's the big one. Also, if you're in school, talk to your professors. If you're in work, talk to your bosses about it, and just let them know what's going on, so that it's not a surprise when you're just out. So really be forward and communicative in those situations where it's that. And in social situations, always have a way out. Like always plan of like, okay, I need to get out of here early if this happens or this, and be very wary of loud sounds and bright lights.
Just really proactive.
Very proactive.
Okay, last question. What advice would you give to people who are supporting those TBI at any stage?
Yeah, definitely. I think it comes down to a lot of just, you're never going to be able to know what's going on inside their head. So always approach it from a state of grace, because they could be having the best day or they could be having the worst day. And that's the hard thing, is it's not something that's consistent. It's all over the place, it's variable, and it can be a lot of crap in an instant. And so just really talk to them about their triggers, talk to them about what you can do to help, and ask them the question of like, where's your pain at today? And give them that scale. And be like, okay, are we at a 1 or a 10? And like give them the variable in that, and then ask them what you can do to help, rather than assuming that what you're doing is the best thing. And the biggest one I can say is don't offer advice unless it's asked for. Because a lot of people just come in and they'll, like I was told so many times, like, have you tried this doctor? Have you tried this one? And I'm like, yeah, I already tried that. Thanks for the suggestion there. And it did nothing. But it's that everyone has their own story and their own path in this with brain injuries. But it's that you can't assume the same thing that worked for someone else is going to work for this person. And so just give them the space and give them the love.
Sweet. Thanks for coming in, Kevin. Talking about it again. Really appreciate it. But, yeah.
Sweet. A little shorter winded there.